Hi everyone, it's Fiona, an environmental educator with the Sandia Mountain Natural History Center and the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm doing a Q&A video with questions that were submitted by 5th graders from Sandia Vista Elementary in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. These students from Ms. Graham's class had their virtual field experience with me. Then afterwards they submitted cards to me that included things they were still curious about and questions they still had. So I'm going to go through some of these because maybe some of you have the same questions. All right, let's talk about consumers now, animals. And we call animals consumers, if you didn't know, because they eat things. They all need to eat to survive, including us humans. Why do squirrels not eat the whole pine cone? Well, it's probably a few reasons. One is that they have little finger-like hands or feet, so they're able to actually turn the pine cone and eat it. I've seen them doing that, munching all the way around. So if you think about us eating corn on the cob or an apple, we don't really like the taste of the inner part. With corn on the cob, you'd hurt your teeth. It would be really hard to eat through that cob. That's not what we enjoy, and that's not where we're getting most of our nutrients from. So squirrels probably only eat the outside because the seeds are on the outside of the pine cone, inside the scales of the cone. And so that's what they need. That's what they actually need for nutrients, and they don't really need to eat the inner part. Next question, do animals, specifically consumers, which are animals, eat plants sometimes? So I think this question meant to ask, do carnivores eat plants? Because the next question is similar. So if you're asking, do carnivores sometimes eat plants? I've actually learned pretty recently that they sometimes do. I used to have the idea, probably like you guys, that carnivores eat meat, herbivores eat plants, omnivores eat both, and it's very clear lines. But that is not necessarily true. Like with defining a lot of other things in the natural world, scientists try their best, they try to come up with these categories and these definitions of what things are. But it changes. So in the case of carnivores, they do sometimes eat plants. They don't eat a lot of plants. The most of their diet will still be catching and eating animals, or maybe scavenging on animals. But they'll eat a little bit of grass maybe. I've heard that mountain lions and bobcats do that. My cat here at home has been trying to munch on my houseplants because they'll get a little bit of fiber that way, and it's probably easier for them to digest their food and to poop at the end of digestion. So they will eat a little bit, but mostly meat. And along with that same question, I got the follow-up question, can different animals, such as plant consumers, which are herbivores, eat meat? And I wasn't really sure. I thought, maybe every once in a while they would. And I looked it up, and there are definitely animals that are called herbivores that sometimes eat meat. And a common one that's found here in New Mexico and in a lot of our country are deer. Deer, if given the opportunity, will eat dead animals. They'll scavenge on them. They've been found eating fish. So if they can find an animal and eat it, they will. Which is weird, right? Because we think of deer as browsing on leaves and branches and being real, true herbivores. Again, it's probably very rare. Most of their diet is from plants. But if there's an animal there that's dead and easy to eat, why not, I guess? So again, the labels don't always fit perfectly. All right, time for everyone's favorite animal, the bear. I'm still curious about how did you find the bear scat? So during the program, the students will remember, I showed them some actual pieces of real bear scat because me and the people I work with are weird and we like to save scat and show it off. This is dried out, and it's covered in a clear paint, a lacquer, to preserve it so it's not smelly, it's not wet, nothing like that. And if you're able to see it, there's actually little bits of shell in this bear's scat. How we find the bear scat is going out and looking for it. So I'm part of the Sandia Mountain Bear Collaborative that's been doing research on local black bear populations in the Sandias for the past several years. And One study that we did for a couple years was going out from about April to October when bears are active and looking for scat, looking for their piles of poop. One good thing about bear scat is when you see it, it's big, you know, but it can blend in well. So I've walked right past piles of scat that someone else found and they were just blending in with the dirt. Where you'll find more scat is near water sources, so near natural springs or little creeks or even dry valleys where water sometimes runs. You can find more bear scat. And bears will often poop in the same area, so kind of like their own bathroom. They'll have several piles of scat in one spot, so if you find one pile of bear scat, you're likely to find more, so you should search that area a little bit more. Near their food sources, so in stands of oak trees or where there's bear corn, which is a saprophyte. It grows off the roots of the oak trees and it comes up in a yellow stalk in the spring. Looks like corn on the cob. Bears really like that stuff. So if you find a lot of that, you might find bear scat. Or along trails and also game trails. So human trails that bears will use, and they'll also make their own trails. So if you see trails heading off into the woods off the main trail that aren't really as obvious as the human trails, they might be bear trails, and you might find some scat along them. Someone else asked, what other things do bears eat besides piñons, which is what I showed the students in class. This one that I showed you here, that is from eating piñons. So they actually crunched right through the shells and just ate it all, and then the bits of piñon shell end up in their scat. And other things they eat, so like I said, bear corn is really common. So this piece of scat has lots of little bear corn seeds in it. They kind of shimmer when they're in the sunlight. Sometimes they'll get into dumpsters and human food, and unfortunately, we'll find things like this, where they'll have plastic bags, and we even found a watch battery one time. Acorns they eat a lot of, juniper berries, which are the little blue hard berries on scaly juniper trees. They eat prickly pear fruit, so if their scat is just a big pink plop and it smells like rotting fruit, then that could be prickly pear fruit from the top of the prickly pear cactus. They will scavenge, so sometimes if they find a dead deer, maybe that a mountain lion or something is killed, they'll eat some of that, so you'll find a little fur in their scat. They're opportunistic omnivores, so they'll eat plants and animals and whatever they can get their paws on.